In a world full of misery, rage, and insomnia, there's a place you can go to just unwind. All you have to do is take a long walk into the mountains, and just past the black house, the secret garden, you'll find a small cabin. Inside that cabin, you'll find the Hole in the Wall Book Club. So now that the dream catcher's hung and the fire started, we invite you to pull up a chair and join the Losers Club as we explore the world of slurping on people's necks and serious men. Welcome back to Hole in the Wall Book Club. I'm Anthony.
I'm Alex.
Perfect take. First time.
Nailed it.
Yep. 100%. And we did more Salem slot. So chapters 3 and 4 are what we're going over today.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to give your general opinion of chapter 3, The Lot? I want to point out real quick before we jump into the actual chapter, I hate the chapter names because last time we said was it Ben?
Yeah.
Was the first chapter, but it's actually Ben and then in parentheses Roman numeral 1. And it was Sue Roman numeral 2. Oh, 1. And now we have The Lot Roman numeral 1. We didn't mention that before.
I didn't think about that, but that almost feels like he's numbering, but telling a story sort of like Martin. Like Game of Thrones is done by bouncing between a set of characters and coming back and obviously we're only on chapter 4, finishing chapter 4, but if that's how he's not, I didn't even pay attention to that, but if that's how he's numbering it, that sounds like you're coming back to Susan 2, Susan 3.
And I was a little bit curious. It does happen.
Okay.
I was a little bit curious. I was like, wait, maybe there's one in each part because there are 3 parts.
Yeah.
No, I just flipping through and looking at the chapter title on the top of the book, I've seen The Lot 4. So that's definitely not it. But like, yeah, Sue's first one.
Is it besides people? I don't know. Well, we haven't gotten there, but I'm curious. I'm wondering if the format maintains, like how the lot is written. Is that how every lot will feel? Are we going to get like blurp, 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 next lot 2, blurp, blurp?
Maybe. We'll see. But yeah, okay, about how the Lot 1 was written.
It's kind of awful. I'm just going to be blunt.
Yeah, you have strong opinions on this.
I had to force myself to read this chapter, which, once again, a good comparison of this is how we describe the prologue into 1, in my opinion. The pointlessness of the prologue once you start the book is sort of how 3 feels to 4. Not completely. There are obvious. You were given some key moments in 3. I'm not going to state this was literally. You can cut this chapter out and move on. There are some characters you do see that set it up directly, and you can assume King. What he's doing is you're going to come back. Like you said, they're numbered. You can assume that what we're going to see is these people later again. So he's setting it up, but opening with a story and then cutting from story to Days of Our Lives and then coming back to the story in chapter 4 is just abrupt and kind of tedious the way he did it.
It feels a lot like the second half of part 1 of Carrie. I hate that I had to say that again on this podcast, where it was just like, okay, so you had a bit of like, here's a narrative, millions and millions of excerpts. Yeah, that's what this was. Like it broke it down into...
How are they in the physical book? Are they like a page? I'm reading the PDF, so it's kind of slaughtered. But I mean, would you say they're about a page a piece or something?
They're wildly different. Like there's a couple that are like up to like 4 or 5 pages, and there's some where there's like 2 on a page. Because this is...
Maybe my formatting is terrible. There seem to be more weird...
Blah, blah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The EPUB, whatever format it's in, seemed... weirdly parse things as if it all kind of felt similarly linked. I don't know what's going on, but they actually felt very similar in length to a degree. Obviously, they're different sizes, but there might have been parts where it was...
The average was about like a page and a half to 2 pages.
But I also have the instance where pages are tricky on mine because it separated each subchapter from each other. And so if something ran slightly more than a page long, it'd be 1 sentence blank next page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, each of these subsections starts with a time header. I didn't write any of those down, but it starts early in the day and it's just stepping through the hours of the day all the way to the last one being, I think, 11:59.
Yeah.
But we're going to skim some of these because it really is just, here's some people, here's what they're doing, here's some things you should remember about them. And most of them are going to end up dead.
Yeah, I guess to kind of fuse what we said together so it's clear, basically the chapter starts at the beginning of the day and is just time. Think of the show 24 if you've ever seen it. Here's the time. Very much like that, but each time is a different person.
Right.
I think one guy comes up twice. He's like in the middle and then at the end.
Yeah, and
but it's generally one person per time.
The very beginning of it, like the first couple sections kind of told a cohesive-ish story because and then it just dropped off of that because like it starts with the Griffins, they're the dairy farmers. It's the like two boys, Hal and Jack, and we learned that Hal hates school. That was what that whole thing was.
It's the cheesy dynamic. One kid's the smart kid. The other kid is the pragmatic kid who thinks school's a waste of time. And
yeah, but from there, like we then jump from there to the milkman, and then the next scene is someone, and then the milkman delivers to them.
Oh, I see what
so
you're
there was a
getting
little
at.
bit
Yeah,
of a
there
flow,
was.
and then it just stopped.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that, but yeah, there is. You're almost getting the impression at first that a baton's being handed.
Right.
You're seeing something handed to the next guy, handed to the next guy, and then suddenly it breaks.
And it is at that. It's because I mean we get a bit about the milkman. It's really not much. It's him bitching that people want to order specific things.
He's the guy with the dog?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then we find out
Which will
it's
be relevant
his
at a certain
dog.
point. Yeah, Doc. I believe, is the name
Doc
of
is the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, his name's Irwin. It's a good name, good timely name there. And then the person who gets delivered to is Ava Miller, who's cooking in the boarding house.
Yeah,
where Ben is staying, and like we're just getting little bits from each of them. I don't know. There was nothing much there.
It's each of those little blurbs felt like it meant to frame. It's as if you got all of the setup for every character you might see in the book over the course of the narration in some sort of chronological order, but as if each of those starting points were ripped out and placed all by themselves in their own chapter. Every time you finished one of these blurbs, you kind of wanted to. Your mind naturally was like, okay, what's the follow up to this? And it felt like it started over again.
Right.
Yes, they are in time order, but you're completely replacing the entire circumstance with a new character doing a new thing.
It's just, yeah. And most of this is just set up to die, you know?
Yeah.
Some of these characters are clearly going to be important, and I think you pointed out that it was like trying to set the lot up as a character itself.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I did not like this. Because we get these fairly mundane scenes, and then we jump to some woman trying to give her kid the Shining, I think is
that's the
least terrible
polite
way to
I
put
guess,
this.
if that can be done. Yeah. She I think King was. It has like a weird element where you're trying to almost go. It almost feels like you're supposed to sympathize with her anger in a sense, like you know where it's coming from, but it's wrong. Like, it's the frustration of being an underage mother who married the dad of the child and la la la, but that everything went downhill from there. But it's just a 17-year-old girl who takes out her anger on the kid.
Yeah.
It's not even just within its own setup, because so basically the live, if we will, act she commits is to throw the bottle at the kid. This is how old kid?
Like 10 months?
Yeah,
10 months,
not
I
even
think.
a year. Horribly describes the effect. I mean,
yeah.
The child's eyes swell shut, and then it's handed the bottle, and it was almost creepy, to be completely honest. But it adds in there that she's done this kind of things multiple times.
Oh, she also like punches the baby.
Yeah, no, that's what it says.
Several times.
That she will do this, and that I don't know how you're supposed to feel at the end of it, because it ends with her basically like, fingers crossed, please God, I hope my husband doesn't see that I do this. I'll tell him the baby fell.
Yeah, she's like, I'll tell him the baby fell off the changing table. He'll believe me.
Or yeah, it's like, he'll believe me. Hopefully. Oh dear God. And you're just like, I don't know. I don't know how to say it, but like in a story sense, I don't know what this character's existence is for in the story.
Yep.
I get you're getting the day of our lives, but why pick a character who just is kind of awful, and then when she speaks or thinks, seems just as kind of awful, and then that's it? Like,
maybe someone's supposed to feel real good when they die.
I guess so. Yeah, they're the teens in a slasher movie where you're just like, whatever to you.
And then we jump to what I think is probably our first plot relevant one. We meet, what was his name? It was a good one. Never mind. It's not a good one. I was thinking of the wrong person. But we meet Mike Ryerson, who's basically the cemetery groundskeeper.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And we get this weird bit where we just learn how content he is with his job.
We got a couple of content people here that are interesting.
And like, I mean, he makes a good point. He's like, I don't have a boss breathing down my neck. I get to work outside. I dig graves. I love it.
Yeah, he makes that point because he talks about how he has a very hard time with women because the second he states his job, they get creeped out. But then that's his response. Like, I don't have a boss. It's not like I'm fondling dead people. I just dig graves, fix stones. It's not that big of a deal.
Yep.
So it's like,
no shining here.
Yeah.
And I think the bit that not positive but probably plot relevant is he finds Doc, the aforementioned milkman's dog, impaled on a fence.
Hanging by its tail.
Oh, is that how it was?
Yeah.
Okay. I just read that bit.
Yeah, its tail is somehow hooked or stabbed so that it's dangling by its tail from the gate.
Right.
And it makes him feel like, I believe he describes almost like gagging or something when he's doing it or whatever. But yeah, this would be the first moment in the book where something truly absurd in a weird way, like a creepy way happens.
Spoiler alert, doesn't come back up again, so I don't know if it's plot relevant, but... Does it? I mean, they mention that it's happened. Yeah, it hasn't come up in reference
it comes back up as a slight tool to have... what is that weird kid's name? The guy that Susan was supposedly with.
Floyd?
Yeah. It's a slight device for Floyd because when Floyd goes to the bar and is told it, he flees and goes to talk to the, what's his name? Milkman.
Right.
Okay. Because he feels bad and instantly... So
I'm just not sure if it's related to the vampires.
Yeah. Let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they do... I don't know if it's like some neat creepiness or if it's just like it's the town's ignorance, but there's like a weird emphasis on the kids being weird. They actually make this point later in chapter 4 where people are like, the kids are getting weird. Why are the kids acting up so much?
We're actually told this in the next section because we meet the bus driver.
Yes.
And the only reason we meet him is so he can tell us how shitty kids are. But it's so heavy, like handily written that I'm like, I hate this guy and I don't trust anything he says. So if that's what you're using to tell me that, like, kids are being weird, I don't know if it's this guy just being a dick and hating kids.
Basically, he's a bus driver. There's no talking, no doing diddly squat, perfect silence, don't do anything. If you break any of these rules, he kicks you off the bus and makes you walk to school. Which I inferred that you still get in trouble for being late even if he does that to you. Because he states they still have to talk to the principal when they get there. And he makes a comment about how the disciplinary system at the school is a joke. He's literally just the hard ass.
Yep.
He's the ex-military hard ass character.
Yep.
Because I believe he was in the... Is he the one that's in the Navy? There's actually like a handful of characters that are ex-military in this story.
Maybe.
He's in something, but he mentions like how... I believe he makes the comparison that the kids who are too loud are the... last generation's Vietnam poo flingers.
Oh, yeah. And I think this is where we really start getting, like, 90% of the people in this plot seem to, like, just, I don't know. It's been a while since I've heard this many different terms for gay people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, anyone in this town, apparently, that refers to weakness is going to use, like, homophobic insults or art or decoration.
Yeah.
Because, like, there's mention later
or just passively not being a man.
Yep.
Like, it's the use of this... You obviously give a bit of wiggle room if he's trying to portray a character to some degree, but the level of it in this... King either lives around some weird people at some point when he's writing this book, or he felt the need to greatly exaggerate the use of this word for no real reason. Like, there's at one point, I believe it's like said 8 times in like one page, at least in my format, where someone just keeps saying it over and over and over again.
I hope things weren't that different in 1975. I'm really hoping.
It would seem bizarre. It's a little intense.
Yeah, it's just in like casual conversation.
Yeah,
this is what got me.
Like
it's not even directed at a particular person in general. Normally,
yeah, no, it's just you say it all the time. Like I believe I said this like off podcast. I could think of the most childish juvenile person I would have encountered at high school who would have used that word liberally, and that person wouldn't have used it as much as some of these characters.
Yeah, and from there we jump back to the boarding house, Ava Miller's boarding house, and we meet
a guy named Weasel, and we find out he used to sleep with Ava, and he's a drunkard. Like, and that was what that scene was for. It was...
Yeah, it's a lot of him going, oh, man, she's still pretty. Ah, man, I remember when we used to do stuff. And then, like, subtle moments where, like, King then gives you God's eye view and goes, she tries to hide her genuine concern through straight teeth, but she's actually still kind of cares. And you're just like, if you're trying to sell us on a hidden caring, you didn't.
Yeah.
It seems like she cares because she cares as a person to person, but otherwise this is just a weird moment of this guy going, my life's okay, I guess. I still got the hots for the chick I had sex with before.
We find out, I guess the things we do find out here, we find out about Ava's husband, who was like a hero who saved the sawmill from the fire and then like several years later when trying to sell the sawmill just fell into a fucking shredder in the middle of a sales demonstration.
That's the guy in Miss banging his head off the thing. That's King just going, here's someone getting dunked randomly.
Just to an extreme. Just fell in, died, and the sawmill ends up closing down because
They didn't make a big deal about his defending the sawmill. They literally describe it as, while the firefighters themselves couldn't do shit, he managed to stop the fire from hitting the sawmill. And then in the process of trying to sell it, dies.
It was wild. And we find out that Ed, or as Ava called him when they were banging, or Weasel to everyone else. Man, what if an entire town just decided to start calling you Weasel? Like, that would be wild.
Yeah, it would.
But he basically does chores around the house for rent.
Was it for rent? Or I thought it explicitly said it wasn't for rent.
I
thought he got like a government check and was unemployed or whatever, and then he just helped her out.
No, there was a mention where she asks him to like wax the banister or something, and he says if he has time, and he says I'll do it, and like you get his thoughts of, you know, she presents it as a chore, or as a request, and doesn't acknowledge that it's for my rent. He points out that like he appreciates that she doesn't bring up that you're working for me.
Oh, yeah, I just misread that.
Yeah, a weird little throwaway comment. He definitely does get government check, and he spends most of it on booze.
Yeah.
Like, everyone acknowledges
that's the start of the story.
He's super okay with it too. It's like that drunk from Carrie. There's always the drunk who's like, yeah, I'm the drunk. That's what I do.
The literal town drunk.
Like, yeah. What do you want? Well, you want someone else to be the drunk? No, I'm the drunk. Well, I'm taking an apprentice. God, I wish there was apprenticeships for everything, like things like that.
Amazing. Yeah.
Then we jump to kids being terrible. If you want to jump in on more, we go to the schoolyard and where we see.
Oh, the bully.
I actually loved this. Oh, because we started the bully. What was his name? Richie. And he's talking about how he's real big and he loves being big and he likes feeling the ground tremble underneath him when he walks.
It's just straight jerking to his ego at the beginning.
He's like, I'm going to grow up and smoke camels like my daddy. I wanted to point that out. Actually, I was thinking about that. We were talking about in Carrie how like he always points out what type of car it is. It's not just that. It's everything. He doesn't use cigarette in this book. It's like, it's a Pall Mall.
That's true.
A Camel.
I didn't think about that, but yeah.
He does that with a lot of various things where someone else, like most authors make, she lit a cigarette. It'll be, she lit a Pall Mall. And he does that a lot.
I wonder if that sort of assists in the...
Like grounding it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was also, tangent here, I was also thinking about like why this does not feel dated. And I think I don't know that I've ever seen him write in present day. As in, like, he always anchors it in time, which I think plays to the strength of it.
And I think especially the more you read of him, you do King world build. Like, obviously the point of the podcast is this.
Right.
But I think any individual reader of King, after a couple books, builds the King verse in their head. And I think we had talked about this off the thing, his archetypes. The repeated use of these same archetypes throughout all of his books. The jock, the nerd, the good girl, bad girl,
It's basically slasher movie genre.
Yeah, but those archetypes are so understandable, even if they can be sometimes over-represented in a weird way in his books, that you get to place them in any time. Right. There is always a nerd, there's always a jock, and I think that also helps his wherever I put this in the timeline, you can at least relate to these base concepts.
Right. But yeah, so sorry, back to this bully. So this bully sees the was it a new kid?
Yeah, his
I
Mark,
thought that's
or what's the new kid's name?
Mark.
Yeah.
Petrie?
Yeah.
I love this bit so much. Oh, do you want to?
Yeah. So he, like you said, the ego thing. The earth quakes under my feet. I'm so big. My mom loves pointing out how big I am, so I know I'm big. And he's like, new kid. He needs to know that I'm the boss. And so he shouts out at the new kid, and you get this little interesting dialogue back and forth of, obviously, the second he shouts, the entire playground turns and looks. Because he makes the point that every school he's been to, he's made sure he's the master. The school he was at before secondary school, he was the boss. He says that, I believe he uses the words, when he left that school, it was as if the devil of that pantheon left.
Yes. Which, weird thought for an 11-year-old.
Yeah. or maybe, yeah. And so he calls Mark's name. Mark does the calmest, turns around. What? Huh? And it's just, and then you get your standard banter back and forth. Hey, Four Eyes. Hey, insults. I'm coming for you, basically. And he just calm as you can be. Mark's like, really? Is that what I am? You sure? Are you sure about that? And then it escalates to Richie,
yeah.
Richie just being like, Rhino, head down. I'm coming to just completely wipe you out. Mark takes his glasses, looks to the kid next to him and goes, hold these for a second. Bulldozes towards Mark. Mark, being agile, dodges it, and because of his momentum, needs only to stick his foot out. Richie face plants into the ground. Mark, you actually, it's also kind of interesting and it's cool about this is that while this is also happening, you then begin to get the sort of on the spot train of thought kind of thing that Mark's going through. Like, okay, all I need to do is use my foot. Now I'm going to get on his back. Now I'm going to hold his arm this way. I can't confront this man one-on-one in a proper fight.
Yeah, because he gets that moment of, if he gets up, I'm dead.
And I have to admit, it makes me interested if we see anything more about his parents, because this is an odd train of thought for a kid this age.
Yep.
He's actually thinking it so well through that he just trounces. Okay, so basically he gets on the kid's back, puts his arm behind it, and is jacking his arm up, and starts pushing on it and just telling him, say uncle, say uncle. And of course, Richie in his ego, he keeps doing it, but he's also screaming and wailing because it hurts so much. And there's a few points where he tries to push up or shove back, and I believe it's described as like on the back of a horse. He keeps drilling his legs into the sides of Richie. And eventually he pushes it so badly that Richie's just weeping. And Mark, dirt in his eyes, dirt in his mouth. I mean, he's humiliated beyond belief.
And Mark at that point says, like, if you don't say it, I'm going to break your arm. Straight up.
At this point, Richie finally says uncle, and then I think he also says, Richie, you need to say you're a giant turd. And he's like, I'm a giant turd. And he finally lets him go. And Mark in his mind goes, I hope he doesn't take this to round 2, because then I will lose.
Yep.
So Richie stands up, and it kind of jumps to his mind, and it's like, yeah, I'm so humiliated that my humiliation stops me from fighting back.
Right, yeah, you get the process,
I'm paralyzed.
I want to beat the shit out of him. I physically can't.
Yeah, I am paralyzed by my humiliation. So he puts his head down, hears some snarking from, like, the kid. Actually, all the kids turn away. And then you hear some snarking from some girls across the playground. And then it makes the point that he's staring at the ground as he walks away, so he has no idea who's doing it. And then
I think
mentions Mark immediately adopts a kid who, like, I believe I forget how it says it, but basically the kid, it's described as the kid looking up at Mark as if he had found a new savior.
Right.
Because of how impressive this was to finally beat Richie.
And I don't know the exact quote, but, like, it ends with a sentence along the lines of, like, something along the lines of, like, and Richie was surprised at how fast the urine came. It's like, and he pissed himself. Yeah. Kid got just...
It was amazing because you in a small period of time, you get, I have a legacy of this. Utter humiliation. Just in a small little
You know what this felt like? A much more physical and visceral version of the principal, whatever that...
The lawyer dad.
Yeah, the lawyer dad.
This is true, yeah.
And, it was just,
and
it was
early
that, like,
on, too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just that, like, ooh, obviously unmatched fight. Oh, shit, you're holding your ground. It was that same good feel.
I got the feeling when I finished reading that because, well, for one, the lot, this is a guy. Mark also shows up later as actually a fairly key sort of beacon to something that happens.
Right.
But
he's also
nevertheless the intelligence of how Mark acted there. I got a sneaking suspicion we might see him do something intelligent later in the story.
I got the same vibe, but I do want to point out we did just have an 11-year-old have an internal monologue that included, it was as if the devil left their pantheon. So it might just be bad writing.
That is true.
Like, it might just be bad at kids writing.
That's the thing. I don't know. I'm always wondering if the words are more verbose, if you will.
Is it like that's not exactly the thought?
He thought
flowering.
The tyrant left, or the evil of the school left, and King just writes down the devil of the pantheon.
But the problem with that is it makes it hard to see when this is an intentional clue.
Yeah.
So we'll see on that. From there we jump. This is the guy that had the name I like, Dud Rogers. He's the town dumpsman. He lives in a lean-to in the dump. Like, he gets
and this is we talked about contentment. This man, of all the people in town, seems to love his life.
Oh, and for just the worst reasons.
Yeah.
Because he convinced the town council to get him a space heater. So once he had a space heater for his lean-to, he can get rid of his apartment. He can just live in the dump. Smell don't bother him none, and he gets to go picking. He
goes on about the sale of copper wire, how much you can make off of car parts because people don't remove them.
I mean, I swear to God, American Pickers watched this, or read this, it's like, got it.
Yeah, and he makes a comment that he actually presumably has a fair bit of money stored under the ground under his chair.
Yeah, just literally buried.
Well, it seemed like a preparatory action for like he's thinking long game. You're not actually giving the impression of that. It's almost like he's just storing the money because he doesn't care about the money.
He's like a dragon. He does not. He is so happy where he is, and he's just hoarding the money because what else is he gonna do?
Yeah, it's almost just like a sign of it's a sign in his mind of success that he makes money, but the actual practical application of money means nothing to him. He doesn't want to go buy anything. He just wants to point out how clever he thinks he is by selling all this shit.
Yeah, because this guy does not need much.
No, and he does not care about anything.
Food. He needs to buy gasoline, and he needs to buy bullets.
Hollow
Point.
That's
since the town council shut down his request for was like 10,000 rounds of hollow point ammo.
Yeah.
Because what he likes to do is set the bits of dump on fire, and like I guess he probably didn't play for gas because that's actually something they were doing
2 days a week. I believe it actually states that he sets certain piles of types of trash on fire.
And like I got the impression this is something that he was supposed to be doing. It
seemed like it was.
I don't think that's something we do anymore, but yeah.
Anyway, with rats scurry out, and his pastime is to shoot them. And hollow points, he seems particularly fascinated with their reaction because at one point he makes the comment that he'd love to upgrade his gun and see how a rat reacts to a magnum as opposed to his pistol.
And I want to put out my experience of this because the turning of exactly where it landed on my pages, because we get like him being like, and what I really like to do is shoot the rats as they come running out, and I was like, it's a little bit weird, but I mean, whatever. Turn the page, and I love seeing them explode. Wish I had a bigger gun so I could see them explode bigger. Okay, now let's watch me kill some rats. This particular town whore. This rat's this little kid I saw on the bus that I hate.
Yes, I forgot about that.
Oh, this immediately got super dark. I was on the fence for a paragraph.
Yeah, I did forget about that. Yeah, it does passively bleed into like he's actually kind of messed up, but the dump lets him play it out.
Yep.
I guess in a weird sense.
I think we got a villain. I think we got our old dynamite, like lighthouse dynamite, shoot a gun up a guy's butt villain. Like the person who has gone crazy that is not related to the big evil and is just going to be doing other stuff. I think we got it here.
Okay.
Because we've gotten a lot of bullies. But I kept waiting to see like which bully was going to become that. But like I think it's this guy.
I think that's probably a fair guess because I think he's the only one that has, I guess the word I'd look for is like potential. A lot of the other people you might think are villains, they seem to be in an apparatus, whether that be social, mechanical, money.
Like Floyd could be because of Sue, but like we've seen so little of Floyd. That's the only evidence is like
and the personality,
maybe jealousy.
Yeah, and the drop we get of Floyd does not seem to be. We're not given any impression yet that he's like a rash man or would make an absurd decision. He even seems somewhat compassionate. When he
Right.
finds out the dog dies, he actually goes to talk to the man.
Yeah.
So it's, even the people who are sketchy, you're like, this might be the first dude who has that, like, it's the kid. Well, we haven't gotten to it yet, but I guess from the movie perspective, at least for movies, it's the kid in it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
minus the it having any influence on him. It's the guy with potential. You look at him and you're like,
It's
that
the
guy's gonna...
general in, or not general, the military guy in Dreamcatcher.
Oh, yeah, okay.
This is linchpin of the Stephen King universe.
Yeah.
But like, I think this section was set up to be a reveal. Because, I mean, the whole time he's talking about how much he loves and how content he is with this. And I felt like it was a reveal to be like, and here's what I really mean by killing rats. Killed the town whore. Killed the town kid. I think it is revealing that he's like,
If it is him, it'd be interesting to see how he coexists with the supernatural villain. Because, I mean... Oh, we'll get to this. Because there's a point in the... Was that in 3 or in 4? When's the creepy... I guess that would be in 4 because that's when the kid thing happens. Anyway, so
we jump from there to Lawrence Crockett, who is the second town selectman,
and this would be
clearly plot
we actually
relevance.
this might sound misleading because now that I'm thinking about it as I'm hearing ourselves, we sound weirdly enthusiastic about a chapter that sounded like bunk, but it's kind of, this is the guy that this thing kind of anchors on. He's the plot pusher so far as we've seen.
Right.
Everyone else we've been getting the day in the life of. We're getting a day in the life of this guy, but this will be the guy who becomes the anchor that lets us follow into what we suspect will be the vampire shit.
Mm-hmm. Because, there we get Lawrence Crockett. He runs an insurance and realtor company.
Richest dude in the area.
Yep. He's the one who sold the Marston house. And I think that's where we get the story of that, right? That wasn't later.
Yeah, so basically, Straker,
yeah.
So basically a man visits him at his office and immediately creepy description. Tall, lanky guy, perfectly nice, probably bajillion-dollar suit. You're giving the impression he has access to whatever.
Yep. He's referred to in thoughts as a Nancy quite often.
Okay, yeah. And long fingers. Was he bald? I want to say... I thought there was something about the shine. I might be thinking of another guy. But basically, Slender Man.
Yep.
That's essentially what you're given. And a Slender Man, but has obviously has a real face and everything, but that creepy, lanky, suited, pale, long...
And then combine that with you're constantly being told that he always has a pleasant smile that looks mechanical and fake, and that, like, everything he says is just said in a, like, neutral... They're pleasant words said in a monotone.
G-man-ish.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a very there's that foreign coldness feel to the character. So he shows up and he asks to procure Crockett's service.
Right.
And Crockett's, all right, come on in. Check out what we're going to see. I got property here. It describes that he has a lot of the property as pictures pinned up on his board. And he immediately goes, no, there's no need to fish for it. I know exactly what I want. I want this lot because I'm going to open a store, and I want I always say it wrong. Marston House. And he just, okay. And so he goes, well, this is what it's going for. I might be able to work it down. And he's like, no, you're going to sell it to me for $1.
Yeah, both of them, $1.
Both of them for $1. And of course, the natural reaction is like, what? And so basically, Stryker pulls out a blue, I think make a point of the color, a blue envelope, hands it to him and goes, please go over these papers, please read them, and then let me know about your agreement to this. And then it describes a 10-minute silence. Basically, he's going to sell it for $1. He is, instead of getting all the details, basically this is a inside job. He's going to sell the property for $1. The Crockett himself is going to make the difference.
Right.
Fill the difference of whatever the owners want. And then under the table, he will receive whatever he actually needs to fulfill the gaps / whatever.
Yeah, they get him the deeds, like, it seems very through back channels, but all legal and binding. It gives them the deed to a major piece of, like, mall real estate worth, like, $3 million.
Yeah.
And the guy's basically like, you're getting this, send it to your lawyers, make sure it's verified. You're paying the difference. And then there was a bunch of conditions on this deal. Do we get into those here, right? Because there's another scene with this guy where he's talking about this, but
I think it's still here though.
Yeah,
because basically, so the conditions are that
you do not talk about Fight Club.
Yeah,
you do not talk about Fight Club.
For most of this, yes.
Yeah,
it's don't talk about it. Don't let it become like if people poke, leave it alone. Da 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 da. And then
all you're allowed to say is, they came in. I sold them this house for this legal standard price.
Right.
Blah.
2, I'm going to call upon you for
You're
services.
my bitch.
Yeah, basically.
You're my secret bitch.
He basically tells Crockett that I'm going to ask you for things, for jobs. You will do them.
You get paid.
Yeah. No, this entire process is making Crockett just a crap load of money.
Oh, yeah.
And so you will do this task, and then once again, Fight Club invoked again. You will not tell anyone about these tasks. Even if they are illegal, you will just not tell anyone what's being done. And then the no again, and there was a final one, I think.
I thought
he added some weird...
I don't remember what the last one was.
Yeah,
but
it's generally that. Don't talk about it. I'll keep feeding you money. It's the general gist. When I need help, it's to you, I'll go. And then
Crockett has a couple conditions, and I actually loved the way this was done, because we get the feeling before this guy comes in that he's a sleazebag, because like we see him, I think this is all through memories. I believe he's having a coffee, but the very first thing we see him doing is staring at his secretary's boobs.
Oh yes, Jahonies.
Yeah,
I've never heard this, but this word is used repeatedly by Crockett to describe his secretary.
Right, because the next time we see him, he's staring at his secretary's kahoonie or whatever.
Yeah,
but
the youngins that show up later too.
Yeah, there's some weird ones in here. Yeah. But his conditions were, I need to make sure these are real, and I liked Stark just being like, "Yeah, you dumbass, I told you to do that. Like, stop." And then the second condition was like, "Oh, this is 100% sleazebag, and if you're doing anything illegal up there, don't tell me about it."
Oh, right. That was part 2.
He's like,
verify papers. I don't want to know about illegal activity.
Yep.
Yeah. No. And that position clearly points him out as a sleazebag. Chapter 4 will full-fledged lead you into just how much of a sleazebag this guy is.
I believe he mentions, like, if they're making meth or whatever,
he's
just
intense.
Don't tell me about it. Yeah. I don't want to know. No. Plausible deniability.
Yeah. And if I'm going to have to ship stuff to you, just don't tell me what's in the box. Just let me ship the box.
Yep. Yeah, not much more in that. No, he agrees to it. He becomes richer.
And like we're kind of implying this is the crux of what will start chapter 4 and go on.
I mean, it's all about that Marston house.
Yeah.
From there, we get Sue getting a haircut.
She wants a haircut that looks natural. Hairdresser chick says that's what they all say.
Yep.
We've covered all of it.
Yep.
That's pretty much it.
Then we get someone cheating. I don't even remember who this person was. I don't believe we've met them before.
It's basically what you're given is older woman cheating on her husband with younger man. Younger man's real horny. End of story.
Yep. Then in my notes, I have this written as Ben stares at the Marston house. Because there was a small clip where they cut to Ben, and he stares at the Marston house.
He's at their dinner. Was that last? When is the dinner they were at?
Almost there.
Oh, okay.
Because from there, we get a quick shot to, I believe it's a Matthew Burke. He's an old teacher. I believe he's in a coffee shop. I don't remember where he is. But it's him talking about how he likes kids. Not in a non-give them shining way. Like, he sounds like a good teacher.
The English guy? The English teacher? Oh, yeah. He's actually getting out of school. He's on his way to his car from class, yeah.
It was so unrelated. Like,
no, it's quite literally...
Man, kids are cool. I'd be a terrible principal because I just like encouraging kids.
I don't like discipline. It's literally a guy's enthusiastic about what he's teaching.
Well,
just simple as that. It actually mentions that he's like a year or two away from mandatory retirement because he doesn't even want to quit.
Right. It was, and then we get to dinner.
All right. Yeah, and dinner, kind of surprised by how this played out. Essentially, Dad loves him.
Mainly because he doesn't seem to be gay.
Yeah, and is a serious man.
Right.
Whatever this means, you're kind of told what this means, but when I read what he meant by serious man, I wasn't sure.
The things that he pointed, that the dad's, like, hearing the dad's thoughts, pointed out that he really liked about Ben was that, what was it?
The handshake.
He had a good handshake.
He didn't wimp out.
That when he offered him a beer.
He wanted a
He
beer.
took it.
Because if you don't want beer, you're apparently a pothead who doesn't want to get juiced or juicing.
I love that. It was that phrase.
How
They don't want to. They're potheads. You don't want to squander any of their precious consciousness on alcohol.
Yeah. Which was
weird.
Yeah, I don't even.
Apparently, Sue is real into dating arty farts.
Yeah, that was the term.
Which, wow.
It also, the Floyd character that her mom seemed more interested in is not. The dad is not negative towards him, but is not particularly fond of
because he's not a serious enough man.
Yeah. Once again, this serious man, whatever that means.
And then he likes that Ben burped.
Oh yeah, they go out on the porch,
ripped a belch out loud.
They go on the porch.
You can fuck my daughter.
Yeah,
you belch like a man.
He burps. They talk for a second. Dad burps back. Like it's some bonding moment. They talk about. He asks Ben, "Do you know how to do hot dogs?" The cut to make sure they don't burst. He does the gesture in the air. Dad likes him even more.
Oh my god, he knows how to cook a hot dog? Let's play badminton.
Yeah, plays badminton, gets wrecked by the dad.
The two of them make out in the yard, but Ben seems really distracted from staring at the Marston house.
Yeah, that it almost seems to get to that. Yeah, and then I believe he eventually he states that he needs to leave because he has more writing to do, and he has to do that writing. He owes so many pages, and the dad, once again...
My god, he is a serious man.
Yeah, he even asks them. That's the most ridiculous... At the very end, he just goes, "Are you serious, man?" He's like, "Yeah."
Ben, you a serious man? Yeah, I'm serious as shit.
And he made the comment about that he has to go and write. I believe he words it as, "This is a man who wants to leave his mark," which shows he's a serious man. I'm like, what is this serious man?
Yep.
Serious about what?
Yep.
But that happens, and then
the mom's like, "Ooh, he's really serious. I don't like him that much."
Yeah, so dad loves him, and I think it says something along the lines of mom didn't unthaw to him, I believe is the weird
it was a
choice.
weird one.
Yeah. Went weirdly swimmingly, basically.
Yeah.
The women stayed off to the side, talked a bit. They went outside, did dude bro cooking. Then they all kind of hung out together.
Serious man.
Yeah, it was
There's ham boning in the yard.
Oh, and liked how he dressed too. He liked that it was simple jeans and a rolled up dress shirt. That was another.
Right.
I mean, it borderlines on this dad being the one who wants him. Everything about this man is spot on.
Yeah, $100 if they don't make. I'll give you $100 if they don't make out by part 3. Yeah, he's a serious man. Making out with him won't make me an arty fart.
It'll be serious.
And then we cut to Floyd in the bar, where he's basically just being like, "Man, I'm Floyd, and I don't know Sue's dating that other guy. Oh, that guy's dog died? I'm gonna go be sympathetic."
Yeah, he mentioned...
That was the scene.
He did, and I think you're given like a pin drop of sympathy point at one point where he goes... He implies, or he seems to suggest that he is wanting to do better, actually, too.
Right. Oh, I want to be a serious man.
Yeah, no, in a sense, yeah. Like, I want to make more money and be in a better position because I want to actually be worth Susan. And you're kind of like, oh, I thought this was going to be king writing and this man was going to be trash. Yeah. I was honestly expecting to find out that Floyd was a drunkard who, while had a good job, was a piece of shit. And you're just kind of like, oh, it's an average Joe who kind of wants to be a better guy.
Who lives in a shitty town without much work.
And then the other guy there, the only other guy drinking as well, is the one that tells him the dog dies. And then in his mind goes, I know that your girl is off with this other dude, but I'll let him find out another way.
I don't want to tell him that. Yeah.
So he stops drinking, goes, I'm going to go talk to, I keep forgetting his name, the milkman.
Way back at the beginning, Irwin.
I want to go talk to Irwin. He loved Doc more than he appears to have loved his wife, because that was another thing about the milkman.
Oh, yeah.
His wife was, according to the entire town, a terrible woman.
Oh, yeah.
This is not just Irwin's opinion. Everyone's like, he should have been so happy when he got rid of that hag. My assumption is this woman was just a bitch to everyone.
Maybe this is Carrie's dad. Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
He changed his name and moved.
He went to get cigarettes at the gas station and never came back.
The gas station that Carrie later burnt down.
Yeah. And so, so that actually is kind of relevant. So he really loved this dog.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm going to go kind of pseudo-console bro, help him out now that his dog's dead.
And then we get from there to another very relevant scene. Danny and Ralphie, who are some new kids. We have met so many children in this book.
Is this when the kid... These are the kids, right?
Yeah, these are the kids.
Danny,
this is right at the end
Danny's
of the
older one, right, yeah.
And we get basically, there was some weird, like, I don't know why this had to happen, where basically, kid wanted to go over to Richie's house. Richie's the bully.
Mark
wanted to go over to Mark's
This
house.
is where Mark immediately shows back up. Yeah,
Right.
He was cool. I believe train set.
Yeah,
Is that what
one of the kids says, like, oh, we want to go see his train set, and then it's revealed that they're actually going over to see, like, monster movie figures.
which
and-
their mom wouldn't approve of, so that's kind of...
And like, the impression I got is that I think the younger kid was, like, blackmailing the older kid into taking him with him.
Yeah, because he knew what he was really going
Right.
over there for.
So
yeah.
they cut through the woods, and Danny, the older of these two kids, is like, there's ghosts in here. And younger of the kids is like, oh shit, ghosts. Freaks out.
Hey, Danny, stop doing that, please.
Yep.
And Danny starts spooking himself along
Yep.
spooking his younger brother. And at a certain point goes, all right, I'm just going to set a bar. As soon as we see these lights, we're safe. 200 paces. Begin. 1, 2, 3. Danny! And immediately flips around. His younger brother is like, I saw something. And you at this point, you're still like, they're just freaking themselves
Right.
out. There's not really anything yet. But eventually, they get jumped by what they describe as darkness. Darkness envelops them. And is that how it ends?
Yeah.
As the actual explanations later, yeah.
Yep.
So darkness consumes the kids.
Then we get a very quick scene with some woman named Mabel Wirtz, where we learn she gossips a lot. It was so random. Like, she wasn't even gossiping about, it was just like, it was all stuff we've heard. Just like, hey, that author's in town. I'm a gossip. And then we cut to the graveyard for our, like, final scene of this chapter.
Yes, and
where,
I have to admit, this actually surprised me.
yeah.
Because even with the full understanding of vampires, I was like, what? Is this now Lovecraft shit or something?
Yeah.
Because it just ramps to 11 for like 5 seconds.
Because, yeah, it was like some...
It's literally a guy at a satanic-y setup thing, cultish style, calling to, I believe he calls him the Lord of Flies.
Right.
And you're basically given the impression that it's a kid.
Yeah, he's like, I've got a sacrifice for you. It's a kid this time.
Yeah. Last time I apparently didn't give you enough.
And I'm
maybe
assuming that's the dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to give you an actual human. Hopefully this pleases you.
Yep. And then that was the end of chapter 3. And then chapter 4, the good one. At least we got a good one here. Like, and the last episode, like, I generally enjoyed that, but I wanted more action in general, and we finally got it here.
Yeah, no, this is the start.
Yep. It's called Danny Glick and Others, but there is no Roman numeral, so I don't think we're going to repeat. So we start with, basically, the kids were supposed to be back by 9. Around, I think it was like 10. Dad's like, hold up, I'm going to kick their asses. And then they're starting to freak out, and right before they go to search, I believe, Danny shows up.
Well, they call the other parents because they actually stayed
Right.
to search. Yeah, because they do this whole setup. And so the Mark's dad agrees to go search the woods as well. And they would sort of meet somewhere by catching the side.
when they call, the other dad's like, yeah, they never came over.
Yeah, to confirm. So then that's when they do the search. And then, yeah, as soon as he steps outside and tries to break into the woods, that's when Danny just kind of stumbles out.
Yeah, and Danny's kind of... He's a little slow. He seems real sluggish and not very aware.
And
he's
cannot, for the sake of it, remember what happens.
Yep.
Described as darkness, unconscious. Now I'm waking up in the middle of the woods and pop out.
Yep, he basically is like, yeah, we went there. We were crossing the stones, like in the river or stream or whatever that was. It wasn't described as it.
Because they actually make a point earlier that they discussed. There's no way the stream's tall enough that could have been the problem.
Right, and
Or high enough.
he's like, what was it? I can't remember his brother's name. I feel like it's important that we know this. I'll just cut this shit out.
Ralphie? Ralph?
Is it Ralphie? Is he doing that again?
Am I completely pulling them out? It's some name like that, wasn't it? Because I felt like the weirdness of the two names was that it was almost
Ralphie.
like...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. A book, a name he uses in 2 books as a kid who goes missing. Cool. He's got a thing.
He likes his names.
He likes his names.
He likes his
Now,
names.
in fairness, in this book so far, he has invented 700,000 names.
That's true.
I'm actually considering like putting them all on a board so we can put guesses.
Well, now that
on
he's
every
made so
person.
many, we now can track if
Right.
he just brings them all back each.
Yeah, I finally am going to start filling up these boards. But basically, he's like, Ralphie thought there's a ghost, and there's this like in his head, I'm not telling him I told him there was a ghost. And then he can't remember what happened. And They do some minor searching. They keep going, but basically it's like, it's too dark to search. There's too many deadfalls created by the fire. Is that just like a place where you're just going to fall straight through something?
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what that term meant, but basically too dangerous to search at night. Sorry, kid. We're searching in the morning.
Yep. And then they go full blown in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
This is call the police, call everyone in.
Everyone's
they
helping.
Scour the floor. I mean, even later you'll find out that even Ben was out there looking.
And they don't find shit.
No, yeah, that's nothing.
And then from there, we jump to Ben taking a break from searching. He comes back to the boarding house, and Sue is...
making him hamburger casserole, I believe is what it is.
Yeah.
And she's specifically described as wearing shorts and a shirt that's tied off at the midriff. And she's being ogled by the other occupants of the boarding house. And...
who make comments such as, she looks like... Weasel points out, like, she looks like a real good cook. I'm sure of it, because I've been staring at her intently for the whole time she's been here with an erection.
And, like, with no reaction. Not from her, not from Ben. It's as if it's just like, yeah, okay, it's Weasel, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Oh, Weasel.
Exactly.
Oh, I want to make a little, it's just Weasel. A little jingle. Oh, I got a violin. I can teach myself how to play that so I can write a... Right. I need a fiddle for Weasel.
Yeah, fiddle.
Perfect. I'm going to master the fiddle before this episode comes out. It's fine. I've watched a YouTube video. It should be easy. But this is... sorry. The real romance story in this book is not Ben and Susan. It's Ben in the Marston house.
Yes.
Because...
absolutely.
Susan's basically like, hey, I'm going to put this casserole in the oven. Can we go outside? Like, she doesn't say it, but like I filled in for her so Weasel doesn't keep just molesting me with his eyes. Like, but they sit on the porch and Sue's apparently really, really fallen for
oh, absolutely.
Ben.
It quite blatantly states at one point she wants to tell him I love you, but won't say it while he's staring at the house.
Yep.
Which, of course, he is staring at the house at this
And I think
point.
this is like 5 days later.
Yeah.
Because they've been searching for a while.
She even, I think, pokes at him again about the book or something. Like, what is your thing with this house? And he just keeps kind of going, yeah,
she's like,
wait a little more.
Yeah, she straight up is like, what's your book about? I see you're staring at the Marston house. What is your book about? Is it about the Marston house? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you right now.
I want to be honest. I don't know if this is being done for some weird reason. Obviously, I can imagine an author being like, I just don't want anyone to see except the finished product. I know of that thing.
Yeah,
but
especially because he uses that as his reason not to show someone later.
Yeah. But at the same time, the emphasis King keeps putting on his deliberately letting no one know anything. I don't know if it's being done for the sake of... I'm wondering if we're being also kept in the dark about the author... You know how the dream... he describes up to a point.
Right.
And then later has that little blurb. Whether that was immediately then or was a hidden fact, a little was added to it. I'm curious if that kind of act is continuing to go. I kind of get this weird feeling that what's going to happen with Ben is we're going to keep getting a little more. And I'm kind of wondering what that's going to translate to Ben actually being. Like, in a sense. It's sort of his utility to this.
Yeah,
action.
I'm wondering if they do something terrible. Because... if we jump way back to the prologue, we kind of glossed over the fact that it's like when the small boy explains all this to the priest, it's in a confession. And like I kind of just assumed it was like, hey, here's a safe place. Tell me about the trauma you went through. But maybe the fact that it was during a confession, maybe they did something. Like that's going to be part of this book thing. I don't know.
That's true.
It's like maybe they're not like innocent survivors by the end of this.
Yeah. I kind of suspect that, yeah.
Yeah, but we fade out in that scene with Susan being like, I want to tell him I love him, and Ben being like, I want to tell that house I love it.
Basically.
Yeah. And then we jump to back to Crockett and Straker. I can't read my own handwriting.
This name is just...
Straker.
Yeah. Okay.
Straker.
Yeah, the name just weirdly does not...
And this is basically
maybe he's pulling some clever, like, meta trick where in saying the name is a pain in the ass is in fact suggesting the nature of this character.
Yeah, his whole name, like, his full name's a mouthful. I'm going to find it. You want to go into this, like, the delivery thing here?
Okay, so basically, you get a scene where Crockett
Yep.
is sitting in his office and you get a little bit of background wealth. This is where they
look at them boobs.
Yeah, well, yes, and staring at her chest, the secretary's chest. But this is also where we get a little background more of him. He describes the sort of how he went from rags to riches. Basically, to keep it simple, he saw a boom in a trailer market, discovered that he basically mortgages and does everything possible to collect as much cash at once as he can, buys up some land, buys up some of these trailers, slots them in different spots, and basically goes, yeah, my trick is that I sell houses to people who can't really afford houses.
At super high interest rates.
It's insane high interest rates, and they don't have an option, so the money rolls in.
Yeah, he basically
uses that money to
trailer parks in this area.
Yeah, and then uses that money to expand his general business to the point where he pulls all... It's a whole list of shenanigans. He finds every conceivable way to flip property, to screw people over, to get money.
And then he eventually...
Because the phrase, the money rolls in, is like a constant in this part of the story. It's like, blah, 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 and the money rolls in. Da, 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 and the money rolls in. And so...
He, like, by the end of it, like, he owns a couple different trailer manufacturing companies under, like, shell businesses that he's buying his own stuff, like, his own buildings from it. Which sounded just like horizontal integration, but the fact that he was buying it through shell companies implies he's doing something very illegal with it. So, yeah.
You get that history blurb. No one note seems particularly important. You just know that he's a...
I do want to point out, he does mention his net worth at that point was like $2 million.
Which, in this time... Because at first I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money. But then I had to remember when this is... He's actually bizarrely rich.
Right.
This is not some guy who's like, oh yeah, he's pretty wealthy in the town. He's the wealthiest guy in the county, actually. And it's, by that proportion, is actually pretty absurd. Yet, the contrast they do, he's cheap as crap.
Yeah.
His office looks like crap. He wears crap, for all intents and purposes. He could be wearing a much nicer suit, and he doesn't. And it's a really weird character in that he is greedy as hell, but does nothing to flaunt it.
Right. And he does keep pointing out, I think one thing we've missed here is he's constantly talking about not shitting where you eat.
Ah, yes.
In that, like, he does not pull any
crap.
Scams here until the Marston house.
Right. This was the deal with the devil, another phrase you keep seeing. It actually states that at times he's just pondering about deals with devils.
Yep.
And it's at this point, actually, deals with devils. He thinks of Straker. And at that very moment, Straker actually calls him. It's like, and the telephone rings.
Yep.
And so basically, Straker calls him and is like, "I got a job for you.
Remember, you're my bitch. You aren't allowed to say no, bitch."
Yeah. And so it's, I need you to get a moving truck. I need you to pick up stuff at exactly 7 o'clock at this port, exactly at this time. You need to take that. You need to drop all of it but one thing off at the store. Then you need to padlock that store. Then you need to go to the house.
With this specific brand of padlocks.
Yeah, which you will leave all the keys to these padlocks in the cellar. So after the store, go to the house, open the cellar. You'll put the one last big creepy crate, as you'll see, in the cellar. And then you'll leave all the keys on the table. And then the last 4 locks, because he had to buy 5, are to seal up 4 different places around the house property.
Right. And, like...
and they make a weird point during this that King pops in and goes, and Crockett didn't realize how important doing this by the letter was.
Yeah.
Which then you see, as this event unfolds, guys get there at 7:02. Which I'm suspecting you've been told, you the reader have been told this is important, they're late.
Right.
You're kind of feeling like something is an issue. It will be an issue from that.
Yeah, and then from there, I cannot find this dude's name. It's said like twice, and I can't find it to save my life here. But from there, Crockett. God, I don't know why. There's so many names. Yeah.
In this,
like, he introduces so many people. But Crockett calls a couple dudes whose names I refuse to remember, and he's like, "Hey, got a job for you." They arrive a couple minutes late, and they point out several things. They're like, there aren't custom stamps on this.
The one thing.
On the one thing.
The one thing they need to drop at the house. Everything else is properly done, and then it not having a custom stamp immediately, for some reason, immediately creeps out one of the guys.
Yeah.
what appears to be the more subordinate of the two.
Yeah, and he'd worked at the docks before, and he's like, this is illegal.
Yeah, you just can't
Something's
be able
wrong
to
here.
do this.
Yeah.
He's like, I'd be up to my arms are coated in ink from all the stamps.
Yeah, and like the other ones have them if they need them, and there's a couple that came from in country.
Yeah.
And they load them up, they drop them off at the antique store, and they point out that there's a nasty smell. Oh, I do like the bit about the wharf rats. There's a lot of rats throughout this whole book.
Whole lot of rats.
Because the wharf rats is when they're loading up the dock at the docks, the guy's like, yeah, watch out for rats. And he's like, I'll just kick them. And he's like, nope, those wharf rats will drag a whole man off. I just love that. Love that little bit. But they're getting increasingly uncomfortable. We
must point out, because we don't remember their exactness, but the dynamic when I said subordinate is a constant theme between this entire thing, because basically the subordinate guy is just permanently creeped out, won't do anything. The other guy is the utterly responsible for getting the other guy to do this. I'm pretty sure if the other guy was in charge, he probably would have bailed on this.
Yeah.
You're giving the impression this guy is just freaked the fuck out during this entire... Which seems weird, in a sense. Like, these guys clearly do illegal activity. The idea that they're creeped out by a custom thing might be weird, because they do illegal stuff.
I don't know if they do, though. Like...
Well, I guess that's not...
The thing is, like, Crockett says he doesn't shit where he eats. This is the first time, so he probably wouldn't be hiring people locally for illegal stuff.
I guess I might say that it's foggy here.
Yeah.
Like, knowing what they might be able to do. But yeah, so the smell at the place, at the store.
Yeah, it makes them uncomfortable.
But they leave it all there. They lock the door with one of the padlocks, and then they start heading to the house. Creeped out all on the way, of course. They pull up to the back. Flip open the cellar doors. Both of them are immediately freaked out just by looking down the cellar.
Yep.
The steps are weird, just instant freak vibes. But the sort of leader is like, we just got to get this done. Get it done. So they grab the one last thing.
This thing is huge.
Yeah, this thing is absurd.
I think they said it's like an armoire.
Yeah, and the second, we'll call him number 2. It states that the steps are just slippery and awful enough that multiple times he almost just tumbles down the steps and shouts at his friend at the top to not push too hard.
Yeah.
But a little thing. So they take it down, they leave it down there, and then they head back up. Permanently creeped out.
Do they see the rat here? Or is it...
It's when they come back.
Okay.
So they leave, they jump into the truck, let's get the hell out of here. It suddenly dawns on them they didn't leave the keys on the desk. They put the padlocks everywhere. Yeah. But except for the cellar. Or maybe they unlocked it. That's actually kind of vague.
I think they just didn't mention it.
So they put all the locks, and then they realize they need to leave the keys. But specifically, they need to leave the keys on the desk in the cellar.
Yep.
And they don't want to go back down there.
Yeah, because at this point, both of them are like, fuck
we
this
need to
vibe.
get out. So, and the leader guy basically states that he wants to get back. I believe the way it's described, my wife goes to bed early. I want to get some. We need to finish here.
Yep.
And so
they flip a coin.
They flip a coin, goes up in the air. Leader calls heads. It falls tails.
We're gonna give that guy a name, Hank.
Hank, yeah. So Hank has to go down. Pops open the cellar doors.
There's
Gets
just a
freaked
rat
out.
sitting on the table,
heads down,
staring at him.
Heads down, sees the desk, sees the L bend that actually leads to the part they didn't have to go down.
Because he points out that he shines the flashlight on the rat, and it doesn't move.
No, it does not care.
And then I think at some point it just gets off and goes around.
He shouts at it.
Right.
He shouts at the rat, and the rat actually eventually jumps down. And then he
sees something, but we're not told what it is yet.
And I feel like he makes a weird comment about the box again.
While he's staring around the L bend, he hears something pop behind him, and when he turns around, like the band holding the box together, one of them is broken open.
That's it, yeah.
And he throws the keys on the table and fucking books it.
Slams the cellar doors, locks it, jumps in the car, and they're just out of there.
Bursts out, yeah. And then our next scene is Hank, that guy,
going back to his employer Crockett and being like, so that was really strange and uncomfortable, and can we
right.
Oh yeah, we forgot. And on the desk, this was actually the more impactful element, he sees the clothing.
I didn't think they said what he saw there. I thought he said what it was in this next scene.
Well, it describes he says a shirt. I don't think it says everything,
right?
But I'm almost positive it says a shirt,
right?
And then we get the connection there.
Yes.
So he does see a shirt, but then he gets there and goes, So, hey, boss, what I saw was the same shoes, pants, and shirt the kid wore.
Yeah.
The missing kid.
Yeah, they said he was wearing these clothes, and that's what I saw.
And so, should we maybe tell the cops or something? And at this point, Crockett, which they describe as him having this permanent fixed smile on his face, pays him a little more.
Yeah, it was like,
and starts handing
$50 or something.
Starts handing alcohol out.
Yep.
Has them sit down and is like, all right, guys, vent to me. Trying to be buddy, get them out of it. And they're like, well, we saw this, and this was creepy, and this was really weird, and, like, should we do something about this? And then we get the, well, you know, still with the creepy smile on his face, maybe it was just rags. And maybe people don't need to know about the things you've done.
Maybe you just forget about
Basically,
things sometimes.
it's suddenly revealed why these are probably the employees of him. He's blackmailing them. He pays them, but he's blackmailing them. They'll never rat on him because he knows what they've done. And I forget what the exact things were. Like, because he very briefly mentions it. He's like, you did this. The last thing you'd want to know is the town to know.
I totally missed that.
Oh, yeah, no. It's, yeah.
I don't know how I managed that.
He blackmailed, and that's because what incites the, yeah, boss, it's, they were rags. That's all they were rags.
Oh, I totally missed that. I don't know how I managed to miss
he
that.
blackmails him, and essentially the guy gets what Crockett's getting at and goes, maybe they were just rags. You got a good way of thinking, Crockett. They were just rags. And he's like, yeah, just rags. And maybe there wasn't really anything there to worry about at all. And he's like, yeah, there was nothing to worry about at all. And he slides over, I think, another pretty decent chunk of money to them, and then fills them up again. And then Hank's like, yeah, so I'm gonna get going now. And he's like, take the whole bottle of liquor with you. Basically just ass kissing him all the way out. Just do not say anything about this, forget about it.
Yeah. And then from there we get Straker again.
Oh, yes.
We get him buying groceries.
Yes.
Which is basically an excuse to be like, he's supernaturally strong.
But yeah, basically, a chance to see him interact with the community at large, so they can all poke and comment at him and stuff. And then to specifically point out that he can lift a lot of weight with one arm, like, bizarre amount of weight. They describe the amount he's carrying required 2 men to carry. He carries it with one arm.
Yep.
So we now know he's something.
And
we don't know what he is. We aren't assuming vampire because sun doesn't seem to bother him, but he's something.
Yeah. He also pays with, like, old discontinued bill,
$20 bill, I believe,
and is driving like this pristine old car.
Yeah,
which a bunch of old guys argue over what year it is.
Yeah, clearly a man stuck in time, basically.
Right.
And they actually make a comment that if they took that bill to some coin specialist or money specialist, that they might even be able to get more than it's worth because it's a rare one.
Yep. And then from there we see our sheriff again for the first time in a while. He comes to visit Ben.
Right.
And he's basically like, hey, will you sign my book for my wife? And Ben's like, your wife's dead, but I'll sign it for you, buddy. It was, what? It was so weird. Was it him like, I thought the book was a pretense for him to just be there to question Ben.
Right.
But it seems like he enjoyed the book and was embarrassed to admit he enjoyed the book, so he invoked his dead wife.
But weirdly enough, at the end of this, when we get to it, it almost feels like you're right in saying it was meant to just... The impression you have of the constables, I think, is that what they end up
I think that's what Straker calls him. I think he's the sheriff.
There's some term he chooses it's different. But he, in both instances of interacting, you're not actually able to tell what he thinks.
Right.
Like, he acts friendly to both of them, and then immediately looks like he's suspicious of both of them. But I don't know what he thinks.
Because, we get 2 scenes in a row. One where he's talking to Ben, one where he's talking to Straker.
The Ben one is pretty quick. Book.
The weird bits that happen there is... He's like, Sheriff's like, what are you writing the book about? And Ben is super defensive about all of this. Like, are you here to question me and see if I killed that kid? Yep. You're new in town. We figured we'd ask, doing my job. And Ben's like, what if I don't have an alibi? He, like, acts real suspicious just to be like, no.
It's kind of the author you sometimes see in other fiction where it's like, because I'm an author, I'm aware of the game, sir.
Yeah.
And so he's just admitting he knows why he's probably being interrogated.
When he could have just been like, hey, no, here's my alibi. I was at dinner, then I walked home.
And then, of course, it becomes even more ridiculous that he acknowledges that, and then when he's asked, his alibi is, I don't have one.
Yep.
I went out to a walk, I got home at this point, no, I didn't see anyone, no one saw me.
Cool.
Yeah.
Don't you dare touch my book. He gets real defensive when the cop asks him about what he's writing.
And he specifically goes, just don't touch it. Not until it's been edited, collated, and then I'll send you 4 signed copies, but no one sees this before it's finished.
Which makes it, I'm not sure if that's his standard procedure, or is he being weird with Sil?
Yeah, once again, this awkwardness about him that you can't nail down, if it's just him, or if there is something more.
Yep. And then the bit with Stryker was basically... I don't think he... Did he even bring up the kid in that one?
No.
It was.
I think he was much more cautious with how he played.
Right.
He very much does this as a "hey neighbor" kind of reaction. He walks in, goes, "I just wanted to see."
And this is at the antique shop.
Yeah, this is at the antique shop. He actually makes a comment that when he walks up, he's like, "That's a was it a wheel of some sort?
A spinning wheel.
Spinning wheel for like $600." And he's like, "You could get a top brand spinning wheel for $80 down at blah 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 shop."
Yeah.
Little poke at the. There's a kind of very passive joke that keeps coming up about this antique shop in who would buy this? Tourists.
Yep.
And so,
yeah, the whole time you get this constant litany of, they probably aren't going to make it, but who knows?
Yeah,
no
so
one could ever tell.
Yeah, so assured tourists totally buy overpriced furniture because it's from Bolivia or something.
Yep.
So, goes in. This is actually where, what's his name, introduces himself fully.
Still haven't found it. Forgot to look.
Straker's, something Thatcher.
I'm gonna actually find
something.
it.
It's a weird name.
Yeah.
Thatcher. Something. I don't remember.
Oh, we're almost there because
he basically asks Straker his full name, and then he's asked. I forget his reply. Are you asking me because? Oh, that's right. Are you asking me as the role, your professional role, or are you asking me as a neighbor, basically? And this is where he would give his full name, which.
There it is. We did it. Richard? Don't we already have a Richard in this book?
Is it Richard?
Richard Throckett Stratcher.
I knew there was a T.
R.T. Stratcher is what he's been going by.
Richard.
Yep. We have a Richie. God, these... I'm making up 100 names is hard. I get you, bro.
Yeah.
I get you, bro.
Anyway, yeah, the whole name. They have a little back and forth. Like, what's up, bro? What's up, bro?
Explain your business.
He mentions that when they shake, Straker's is firm but creepily cold. You know,
he seems like a serious man.
Yeah.
His head's like so serious but cold.
Asks for Mr. Broler.
Yeah.
Straker's partner.
Yeah.
During the initial
Barlow.
During the initial interaction with Crockett, he states that he has a partner during this.
Yeah, and I think the antique shop is like Barlow, Straker Antiques.
Yeah,
it's a combination of their names.
So he's off when the officer asks him. He's like, he's in New York, I believe,
on a buying trip.
Yeah, on a buying trip. So and he's like, when he'll be back.
He's absolutely not in that box in the Marston house.
Yeah, and he describes the
current theory.
He describes the antique shop as a retirement activity.
Yeah,
which was weird because he says our retirement activity. I was like, are you just pals for life? What do you mean our retirement? But whatever.
I mean, they're in the antique business, and according to this town, that means they're Nancy boys.
Exactly.
So they're not serious men.
So he's like, yeah, he'll be back later.
Jesus.
The officer's like, what is his name? I don't want to keep saying officer.
Parkins. Yeah.
Parkins tells him, I'll be back.
Yeah,
he asks.
He brings up the children a bit because he's like, "Hey, have any kids been messing with your house? They like to mess with that house."
Oh yeah, that's how he does it.
Yeah,
it doesn't have any fruit. It's just like, "Hey," and he's like, "No."
And then we get a scene of Parkins in his office being like, "FBI, I need to run a background check on 2 men."
Yeah. But after interacting with those two, vanishes.
One of them a serious man, the other 2 serious.
Gives them their names, says author, says partners. He makes a point that it's the FBI. He calls the FBI, and he makes the point that when he calls the FBI, he says it makes him feel bad because it's the real law, not him.
Yep.
And
it's too complicated for him.
Gives it to them. Says you need to run it. Gives them a tiny bio of what he knows. Asks the FBI asks him like, why are you giving me this guys? He says because those are the people who showed up just in town before it happened.
Right. And then we get the scene that you don't like. I liked it. We get this like transition scene where
its place was weird. I guess might be
where it was basically just like
it almost seems like a lot thing here.
It was like being in the operator like switchboard room, and you're just hearing snippets of conversations.
He describes the vibration of lines. The birds stand on them. Do they hear? And if they hear, they seem awfully nonchalant about it. You can feel the vibrations in the trunk of the stand thing, whatever. And then we get this sort of operator, we're cutting into phone calls kind of clips.
And it's basically just
gossip.
People gossiping about everything we've heard.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the chapter ends with Danny's chart. I'm wildly excited to see what that looked like in your EPUB.
Oh, garbage.
Oh, cool, because here's what it looks like. There.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically Danny's chart, and it's just like, it boils down to everything is normal. Pending further tests, let's release him.
Basically, just give him B12.
Yep. The only thing that was weirdly off, and I actually looked some of this stuff up, is his hemoglobin was at like 86% on a previous test, but was now down to normal levels. To put normal levels, it was like 40 to 50 was average for male. So, yeah. Because at 45% he showed at the current count. And then the next section is a nurse coming in and being like, oh, he's looking better. Nope, he's dead.
Well, specifically that he's not in his bed.
Right.
Then looks down at the base of the bed and realizes he's sort of like hunched over at the base of the bed or whatever. Goes to grab him, or right before he kind of turns him. But yeah, notices he looks healthier.
And her first thought before realizing that he was dead was that the B12 had been helping.
Yep. Goes to, hey, come on. And when he flips him around, realizes that he's lifeless. Glazed eyes, completely gone.
So, Danny's the first confirmed dead. His brother.
Well, you mentioned funny blood, and you mentioned a kid that you thought might have some fangs by the end. Is Danny a kid turned?
Okay, that might happen.
Because he's left alive. The other kid's
he's
taken,
super
but he's left
lethargic
alive.
and weird.
Yeah, like he's dizzy. I wonder if this kid might be just dying to be reborn.
Yeah,
like he'll rise from his grave or something.
Okay.
It would also explain saving himself if he's the young boy, because he's going to join the church to save himself because he's a vampire.
Yeah, we were discussing a bit off about like which one of these kids might be. We are running real long, so we got to do the wrap up on the end stuff quick. So any pressing theories to push? Little things to jump in?
Well,
I don't think we have time to do world connectivity yet.
I guess maybe Danny's a vampire. Just dawned on me at this moment. So I didn't think about that. Maybe a vampire. You pointed out the blood thing. That's not interesting. You had made a comment a bit off podcast about how King was aiming for a New Age Dracula.
Right.
So I had pitched the point that in Dracula, there's the crazy man in England who refers to Dracula as his master. And it's like, you'll come my way. Come, my master's on his way. So if this is borrowing a lot of Dracula-like mechanics, I suspect there's probably going to be some human in the town that just chooses to be a servant. And our theory on that, it might be the trash man guy, dump dude,
Dud.
Yeah, because because the sort of foreshadowing that he was imagining these rats as people he couldn't stand.
We could see him being
like, well, the vampires can help me do that.
Yeah, they'll eat all these rat people. What?
And then in a King sense, at the very least, the human who does human things alongside the supernatural bad stuff. And so he might be that at least itself.
Right.
We're kind of searching for that human who does the normal stuff, bad stuff.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that filling that role.
It's getting better.
Yeah.
That's what I would point out. It's we are now in the story, I believe. So I am a little more amped to keep reading. I feel like we've gotten over the big old introduction.
Yep.
You could basically say prologue to the end of chapter 3 is actually just one big setup.
Yeah.
4 is where it literally immediately takes off.
I mean, unless we go into chapter 5 and it's just like, hey, so here is the south side of town and you need to meet these people. But no, I mean, the next chapter is called Ben 2. So
I guess this is also a quick point to point out that this is now the first introduction of King's weird shit happening to a kid thing. Because technically Carrie's sort of in a high school and it'd be unfair because they're all in that situation. But this would be the first instance because I believe that when they vanish in the woods, it doesn't just say they're consumed by darkness, but it says something like something unspeakable happens.
I have to double check. I don't remember.
There's some weird something I don't want to put down happens.
Yeah.
And then, so whatever that would mean.
And we had a baby get punched in the face.
Yeah. So we're on that track now.
Yeah. Now you've read the book. Next time we're gonna be doing chapters 5, 6, and 7. That'll bring us to the end of part 1.
Right.
I think we're gonna get like a bit ramped up. I think it's gonna break all hell break loose in part 2.
Yeah, I almost suspect we won't see vampires till part 2.
Yeah, I can see that.
actually see the vampire. We'll
Yeah.
make it hints, but we won't see him.
I think we're going to, at some point, get a funeral for Danny, and I think we're going to get a disturbed grave.
That would be definitely... Yep.
Yep.
I could see that.
Yep. But yeah, until... I had one for this. Until next time, I'm a serious guy, and you read the book. Hole in the Wall Book Club is a part of the Icynewyear Productions Network, and produced and edited by Anthony Sheets. The music in this episode is Supernatural Radio by Kevin MacLeod. There'll be a link to his license and website in the show notes. If you want to get a hold of us, tweet us at Icynewyear, or send an email to icynewyear@gmail.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to tell a friend, or leave us a review on your podcatcher of choice. Word of mouth and 5-star reviews really help us get out in front of more people, and let us expand and do more things. More information on the show can be found on icynewyear.com. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time. You know, I can at least always start this podcast when I'm doing my other podcasts, but welcome back to Hole in the Wall Book Club.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'm Anthony. All of a sudden, I'm Alex there.